Hi everyone, Jennifer Butcher with the Butcher team. And today I want to talk to you about a recent question I had from, an interesting question I had from a buyer. And they said, what do I want to know now before I buy my house? Or after closing, what am I going to say that I wish that I knew? So I've got 5 things that you would want to know before buying your first home, or wished that you knew before buying your first home. And the first one is always credit. I can't even tell you how many people that I talk to, and at the end of the conversation they say, I have learned more from you about my credit score in the last 5 to 10 minute conversation than my parents ever taught me, that school ever taught me. I didn't know any of these things. So had I known how to utilize my credit cards correctly, or how many accounts that I should have open, I would have a much higher credit score. So if you're maybe not looking to buy a home for the next 12 months, there's no better time than now to talk with me so that we can start that credit conversation and maximize your credit score when it is time to buy, because the higher your credit score, the lower your interest rate, the better loan program that you can qualify. It's just overall going to save you money on just about everything, not just buying your house. Get yourself knowledge, educate yourself on your credit score so that you can benefit from a high credit score. The second thing people wished they knew before they bought, or they really wish they would have thought through more, is location, location, location. And this is on several different layers. So the first thing is, I encourage buyers when they're going through homes, before you leave, take a drive down, or a walk, better yet, down the neighborhood. Listen, can you hear the freeway? Are there a lot of kids around? How does the neighborhood look? Do your neighbors take care of their yards? Is there someone that has 5 junk cars in their yard? Just take a look around. Everybody's so interested in the house that they want to buy, and that's absolutely important, but quickly you're going to learn your neighbors are important too, and where you're at is really important. So are there parks nearby if you have kids? Are there walking trails? Does it seem safe? Really take into consideration the location of the neighborhood. Also, maybe you have kids, so obviously you're thinking about school district, but maybe you don't. I talk to a lot of newlyweds that are looking to buy a house, and maybe kids are 2 or 3 or 4 years out in their future, so they're not even thinking about that. But guess what? They do plan to try to start a family in that home. So I always bring up school district. Have you done your research on the school district? Is this where you want your children to go to school? Because you may be in that house when they start school. The other thing to think about is how close you are to family. Maybe you want to be close to them, maybe you don't. But if kids are involved, I know that I'm thankful that I'm close to my in-laws, because they've saved me on a number of occasions with babysitting. So that's important to think about. And then obviously your commute. Where do you work? I talk to a lot of people that they end up wanting to push their boundaries of where they were looking, just because a little bit further out gets you a little bit more house. And sometimes that's okay. But in others, they didn't really think through the commute. And I get a call 6 months later or so saying, we just can't do this. We need to move. The third thing people say that they wish they knew before they bought a house is it a fixer-upper, or is it move-in ready? So in the day of HGTV, I think it's inspiring to find a house and think, oh, so it needs a little TLC. We can do this easily. But have you really looked at what needs to be fixed or replaced, and kind of gone through the list of, okay, this is going to drive me nuts. These carpets need to be replaced before we move in, or this is what I can live with for a little while. This is on like the 3-year plan, and really figured out the cost of those renovations. So I've got some people that have completely renovated houses before they've moved in and gone through all of the costs, and had others with high dreams of fixing it up and then been surprised at the cost and how expensive it was to do what they wanted to do to the house. So just keep that in mind, and maybe talk to a contractor, or kind of get an idea of what it's going to cost to do what you want to do to that house, at least initially right away, so you have that budget in mind. And speaking of budget, that is my 4th item. Have you really looked at your budget? Now, people kind of come up with an average amount for a monthly payment that they are willing to spend on a house, but have you really done your budget? When we qualify you for the loan, we look at your gross income, which is not reality. That's not what you take home. So typically we can qualify you for a lot more than you should or want to buy necessarily. However, what I like people to do is actually take their net income, write that down, and subtract out all of your expenses. So all of your known expenses, car payments, student loans, credit cards, the new mortgage, but also the things that you don't necessarily think about right away. So your cell phone bills, any medical bills, and then utilities. So in most cases, you can call on the utility company, find out who the gas is, for example, or the electric company is for that particular property. You can call them and get the average bill over the last 12 months on that property. So at least you have an idea of what that expense is going to be if you're in a tight budget, to make sure that you're good and you still have money left over. The last thing that you want to do is be house poor. And the fifth thing and final thing that people should think about is, and you're not always thinking about this right off the bat, but what are your 5 to 10 year goals? Have you thought about that? Where do you want to be in your career, in your job, working? Kind of think through, where do we really want to be in the next 5 to 10 years? On average, people stay in their houses about 7 years. So that certainly does, you can move in a year if you want to, you can always move, but it's a good idea to kind of think that through so that you're in the location and where you really want to be in that time frame. So Jennifer Butcher with the Butcher Team, I hope you found these tips helpful. Give us a call if you're in the market to buy your house soon. Thanks.